as far as the stocks that have weathered the storm with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. The volatility in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the fact that the market has seen throws and peaks. We're now going to speak with Rotimi Fakayejo, who is a stock market analyst, a broker on the exchange, and talk to him about how the market has fared, what to look out for this week, and other things to expect on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Good morning to you, Mr. Fakayejo. How are you doing? Thank you for joining the show. Welcome. I want to ask you, of course, starting with blue chip stocks that have weathered the storm with regards to COVID-19. How have you seen things from your vantage point?
What we've seen so far is, to a great extent, the fact that hardly was there any blue chip stock that wasn't hit by the COVID-19 effect of the lockdown. And as such, many of them, the prices came down ridiculously low. Maybe a major example is Dangote Cement, GT Bank, Zenith Bank, and even at the time, Nestle Nigeria PLC. But with time, majority of them are trying to shore up their prices because of the confidence that investors do have in them. So I think right now things are sailing quite okay, but not as we would have expected it to be, because everybody is still exercising a high level of caution because of the uncertainties that still lie ahead of us.
Thank you for that. Now, does the caution with regards to what lies ahead, does that exceed the fact that most of these stocks are undervalued, if you will? Should that not spur more buying activity with regards to attitude towards the stocks on the exchange?
I think if you look at it basically, we need to give kudos to the investors that are buying shares at this time, because everybody was so confused at the time as if the whole world was going to come to an end. But many of these investors held on fast to their belief in the market and to the future of the market. And as such, we saw a situation whereby there was a lot of bargain hunt for most securities. And I think for what we saw last week, we saw a downward trend last week. And this week, we started very well yesterday. And today, I think we are still very good to go. The market is doing 0.44% presently. But be that as it may, the caution is still very much there. Nobody even knows what lies ahead. A lot of people are still talking about second wave of the pandemic. So those things are actually are the things that are keeping investors' hands in their pockets rather than bringing it out to actually spending in capital markets.
And how much of this is attributed to foreign investors versus domestic? The caution that you're talking about with regards to the headwinds that the market is facing, is that more on the side of foreign investors or more on domestic, or it's a general sentiment by both?
Though a general sentiment, but we are feeling the impact more from the foreign portfolio investors. And the local investors, I think they've come of age, and their participation is much more than what we are seeing, what we have been seeing in the past. And I think that is good for the market as well because of the volatility that the activities of foreign portfolio investors do bring into the market. So with more participation of local investors, I think the market is better placed to be able to be resilient to any shock that may come in the future.
All right. And so with regards to getting more participation in the markets, some have said that, the market could be deeper, it could be more liquid. There is a heavy focus on the NSE 30, for example, which are like the 30 of the most capitalized stocks that we're seeing there. What can you say about the push to adding more breadth and depth to the market in order to attract more investors there?
That push has always been there. The NSE, Nigerian Stock Exchange, and Securities and Exchange Commission, they've been trying to do all they can. We saw a very sizable listing last year in the terms of the telecoms. And I think we are still looking, and also Boa Cement, which had an expanded listing because it was originally listed on the market as a cement company in that particular sector. But thereafter, we saw it being expanded, and that also added to the breadth of the market. But for me, I believe strongly that there's still much to do. We need to do more listing for the medium-scale industries. We also need to do more listing for large-scale industries. And I think the legislation is not that we have in place is not enough to actually enhance and lure and bring more companies to come and get listed. So I think there is so much we can do on the regulatory side in order to bring about legislation that will sort of compel companies whose level of turnover is beyond a threshold, which implies that if they exceed that threshold, then it becomes compelling on them to get listed. So if we have more companies listed on the exchange, definitely the breadth will be more, and the investors' confidence also will be more. But with the way it is right now, that lethargy is still there for quoted companies to come on board, but I believe that they will get over it and we will see more listings. We may even see more before the end of the year.
Do you have a preference as to you just mentioned telcos just a second ago. We've only got two of them, MTN and Airtel, but we've got about 5 or 6 still, multiple telcos that operate in the nation. Do you have a preference as to where or which sectors you want to see listing more? I ask this because ICT, of course, is one of the best performing sectors with regards to GDP, and the telcos as a subset of that. So if I was to ask you, as I just have, which sectors, or rather with regards to more companies being listed, what sectors you'd want them to come from, would you have a preference as to which sectors, or you just want them to come from every sector of the economy?
Yes, from every sector. But one thing we need to look at is there's been a lot of government effort to boost the agriculture sector in recent times. But we've not been having much listing from that particular sector. And I think with the kind of input from the CBN and also from BOI, I think strongly that we need to have more listing from that particular sector. Because there are so many companies that I believe are doing well, but have refused or have not even given it a thought to come and get listed on the market. So I think all of them need to come, but I think my preference would be more for agriculture sector because come rain, come shine, they will always thrive no matter the situation.
I thank you for mentioning agriculture. Of course, we've reviewed recently Presco and Okomo Oil here on the show, their Q1 2020 performance. Aren't you worried about the value chain in the agricultural sector? The issue with getting crops from the farms over to the urban centers to sell them, the issue with roads, power when it comes to storage of perishable goods. Doesn't that worry you as you hope to see more agricultural firms list on the stock exchange? I mean, the value chain challenges, does that worry you at all?
Well, the value chain challenges have always been there. But I think we are waiting for a perfect time for us to have those things to begin to happen. Then we may never really be able to see it happen. So I believe even as things are presently, I still expect that more effort will be put into getting some of those companies listed. Government needs to be up in their games in improving the infrastructure within the system. Then also they need to have the backing of the government. Investors need to have the backing of the government with respect to the agriculture sector, concerning their produce. If their produce come at the time that it comes, we have too much wastage. So if we can have a backing of the federal government in terms of storage, instead of even buying it off them before the commodity exchange actually takes up proper, and I think that alone will help and boost the situation within the system. We see that happen in various other developed countries, and that is where the agricultural sector has been well sustained. So the government needs to do more in terms of actually sustaining what happens to the produce and also the infrastructural challenges that has been the bane of the agricultural sector.
All right, thank you for that. Now, with regards to the kind of policies that we want to see, you've mentioned government policies to try to attract more players into the market. Would any of the policies allow for more risk, like shorting stocks, for example? If you think a stock or a company is going to do badly, you can short the stock. Of course, that can lead to the price falling, and there's a downside to that. But more risky practices, would that? Do you think that would also attract more participants in the market?
Well, I think for things to really happen the way it ought to, everything has to, efforts have to be made for things to get in place. Well, risk will always there. There's no way you can completely avert risk. Risk will always be the bane of every investment. And you need to look at your risk-return ratio in order for you to be able to take a gainful decision. So, well, as it is, government will still have to do what they have to do. And investors, too, will really have to do more orientation for their would-be those that will invest in their shares and all of those things. So the thing is, anyone that is making any investment is actually looking forward to return and also safety of that investment. So with the agriculture sector, it's not really as what it ought to be. But one thing that can give solace to our investors is that given what we have seen in Okomo Oil and Presco, we need to have more of such companies listed on the exchange. And I think as such, we definitely will be able to have the market boosted by such.
Fantastic stuff. Mr. Rotimi Fakayejo, thank you for joining us. Capital market analyst and stockbroker, very optimistic about the outlook for the Nigerian Stock Exchange and getting more companies listed on there. Thank you, sir.